Grandmother's church was Friendship in Bolivia. Granddaddy's church was St. John, and both of these churches still exist. And Granddaddy's church was the Baptist church, Baptist, missionary Baptist. And Grandma said, "Which church are you going to, sister? Or you go?" They called me sister or Pat. "Are you going to my church this morning?" And I would say, "Well, I had to think about it, because at Grandma's church you had to get on your knees, and they have you on the knees, and she would pray a long prayer, and she'd preach, and you still had to be on the knees. She would never tell you to get up." But I liked her. I liked the band that she had there. Well, I call it band, but they called it the Tangerines. They had the tangerines. They had the drums. They may have had a guitar. Sometimes they'd have somebody play a violin, and her church was up front, but Granddaddy's church was back then was way in the woods. Now it's on 17 up to the front. And we would have Sunday dinners. Back then the women wore all white, like they were nurses. Everything was starched in white. And they all looked like missionaries. And we would have service outside in the summertime. And in the wintertime we'd be inside. But Granddaddy's church was more sophisticated, intelligent. You may have stomped your feet and clapped your hands. But in Grandma's church you could get wild and just enjoy the spirit going through. You didn't worry about who was looking at you or whatever. In the Baptist church, Granddad's church, they look to see who's looking at them and say, "Hallelujah." So it was just two different environments. So I decided that I would be a non-denomination. You can look at my diplomas on the wall. That's my license in the corner. The one that's written out, that is my license. We're barely making ends meet, but I know God has good plans for me. And I feel like when I raise these funds, that we'll be doing good. The first fund we have to raise, and I have some members, I need more board members. I need people to donate so that we can get these things done about. And I put it in the grace of God and people that love to help people. And I know it's a lot of people out there that would love to help the people in their community. When you give back, it'll always be given back to you, pressed down and shaped over. That's what God tells you. But even if I didn't get a dime, I feel good when I can help that person that was on the street. We have run into plenty of situations where it's a lot of homeless people. And Brunswick County in Shallotte area has more homeless people than you can imagine. And the women can go to the shelter, but where do the men go? They have nowhere to go. So they have to rely on relatives and friends to help them. And we actually know a few people that are sleeping in campers and sleeping in old trailers with no lights and no water. We have a lot of that in the county. Houses with no water, no lights. People don't know it, and some people know it and try to ignore it. And this is why God has these type of ministries to help the helpless, to help the homeless, to help the sick, to help anyone that needs help. We're blessed. We are blessed. And that's why I try to always give forward, give back to the community, because God has been so good to me and my family and my friends. And I know that he wants us to help each other. Help your neighbor. Act like your neighbor's yourself. What would you do to yourself? Well, do that for your neighbor. That's what God told us to do. Judge your neighbor as yourself. If you know that you wouldn't want to be cold and hungry, well, your neighbor doesn't want to be cold and hungry. If you know that your neighbor needs a piece of bread or some food, make sure they have it. If you know the kids are hungry, even if you know the kids are being mistreated, report it. A lot of that's going on. Report it. That child is innocent and cannot help themselves.
I think she's a wonderful lady. When we call and ask her to come and take us, but she gets up and she comes. And if we ain't got the gas money, she'll take us anyway. We brought food up to them, and sometime I take Dominique to the doctor and her mother to the drugstore or wherever they need to go. They don't have transportation, and neither one of them drive.
How about my ministry skills? You know, me and you used to study the Bible together. You remember when you were little? And I used to tutor her. She always said, I can't do it. I can't learn it. And she's very smart, and I would love for you, when we finish this interview, for her to show you some of her poetry. I want her to be encouraged by it, and I just want you to read one or two. I like helping people, and that's what God put me here for. And that's why He changed my life. And I am now a minister, because I was like everybody else. I used to drink. I used to cut the food. I did a little partying and stuff. But when He changed me, He changed me. And He changed me for the best.